Let's take a look at the normal programming procedure. Programming procedure requires you to put the timer into the programming mode and configure the 6 parameters. You don't have to configure them all at the same time. You can configure them separately, and some of them probably you can keep as a default. So let's start by pushing 2 buttons. To put the timer into the programming mode, you push 2 buttons or connect the green and white to ground and supply the power. The output should come on and will stay on until you hold those wires to the ground. I release them and release the buttons, and in a couple of seconds it will go off. You can use external light, or you can use internally built LED as a visual aid for the programming. So we're in the timing mode. Here's where you set your timing. So every function in a manual has some kind of timing, and sometimes it's just a time, or sometimes it's T1 and T2. So in some cases you need to configure only T1. In some cases you need both of them. So let's configure T1 to 3 seconds. So we're going to push the button for 3 seconds for that duration and release it. We set it T1. We're not going to set T2. Now we need to move to the next step. To move to the next step, you push 2 buttons together, or ground white and green wires together. The light comes on for a couple seconds, letting you know that we now in the next mode. So we're in the function mode. We're going to set the function to a 3. 1, 2, 3. So each function has a number, and that's how many times you push the button number 1. For the trigger mode, if you set it to a trigger 2, which would be a ground operated, you would push the button twice, or if you want to disable the trigger, you push the button once. Then we're done with the function, and I don't really need to change anything, any other configurations. So I'm just going to disconnect the power, and when I connect the power back, we should have our function number 3 with about 3-second flashing sequence. So all the functions, the way we configure this timer, all the other functions follow the same programming steps. It's really setting up the time, setting up your function and the trigger, and then adjusting maybe some other parameters. Once you set them, and if you need to change only the time, you don't need to change. You don't need to set all those parameters until you reset the timer. So if you need to change the time to 1 second, you would disconnect the power. Obviously, I'm going to push 2 buttons, put the timer into the programming mode. Here's a better contact here. Release the button, and now if I'll just push it once, I set my T1, and if I don't need to change anything else, that is it. I disconnect the power, reconnect it, and now we have the flashing light. If you configure your timer and change most of the parameters, and you want to go back to the default, you can reset the timer. To do that, you would push 2 buttons, connect the power, wait until the output comes on, disconnect the power, then connect it the second time, disconnect it, connect it the third time, and basically do it 5 times. So this will be the 4th time, and this will be the 5th time. On the 5th time, the light is going to blink. You will need to release the buttons and wait until the light goes off, and now it's reset to the original mode. Now we're going to disconnect the power, and we can start the programming all over again.